Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
The record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today being the 31st day of July 2017. I trust that everyone had a great weekend, enjoyable one. If you just decided to stay at home and get some rest, for some of you, the weekend means getting all of the housework done and stuff like that as well, and then not too much rest to be had. But for those of you who had, we trust that you all had an enjoyable weekend. Before I do my introduction, I want to give a big shout out to Miss Amy Gold, 90 years old. Big birthday celebration for her yesterday. Unfortunately, I was unable to make it, but I want to extend a big shout out to Miss Amy Gold, 90 years old, and we trust that you live to see many, many more years and enjoy your time while on this earth as well. So I'm told that it was really, really a good turnout. Everyone enjoyed themselves. So Miss Amy, again, to you, all the best and all that is good for you and your family. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. For the Record is a show produced by the staff and the management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orit Connor. My co-host is Dr. Steve McField. You're welcome to join me in our conversation by calling us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and the 949-6990. Of course, if you don't like to talk on the telephone, then email us at For the Record, one word, For the Record, at candw.ky. And if you do decide to join us in the conversation, you will be greeted by that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. She will greet you. She will give you whatever instructions, or sometimes she may just take your questions for you if you don't want to talk on the phone and relay them to us, and then we will answer them as well. Without any further ado, I want to introduce my co-host, Dr. Steve McField. Miss Teresa Pitcairn is not with us this morning. Morning, Doc, and how was your weekend?
Good morning to you, O.C. Good morning to your listening public locally, and good morning to your followers overseas. My weekend was mixed. I stayed home on Friday and Saturday. Last night I went out to the Harkwell Theatre to get the opportunity to see for myself the talent that they're taking down to Barbados to Carifesta.
Okay.
It was very, 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 very good. It's a lot of talent. I have to big up or shout out to the brother and sister of the Edie family.
Mm-hmm.
They're great talent.
Extremely talented. Yes.
Extremely talented people, and of course Swanky. Swanky is a great talented band. The talent that's there, and I said to myself, well, if I had lots of money and if I was in the music business, I would be promoting them internationally.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to see the play because the person who told me about the time that the festival was going to begin was 7:30, and when I got there, it had started from 6 in the afternoon,
wow.
6:30, and I only got to see the Swanky part. But what I heard, and this is what they've told me, that people were talking about, they were very disappointed that on Saturday evening they had a whole two rows of seats for the VIPs, for the government people, and they didn't show up. And they didn't show up there to support their children, their people going abroad to represent their country. They didn't come out and show up. And as I came into the studio this morning, I was speaking to your radio, to your TV personality, and he says, well, it was not the Ritz-Carlton, and it wasn't shirt and tie, and it wasn't about how many millions they're going to spend to develop put more concrete jungle, put more concrete in the country, and that's the reason why they probably didn't show up. It was very disappointing to hear that news. I didn't see it for myself, but that's what I've heard. And then another thing that really catch my eye over the weekend was the whole Scranton affair. I don't know if you read it in the newspaper.
Yes, I did.
The Scranton affair, where the premier went down to Scranton and the commissioner of police went down to Scranton and was talking about what's happening in Scranton. And, OC, it bothers me because Scranton was once the cultural venue for the black community in Cayman, especially around Easter time.
Yeah, that was our Harlem.
Yes, especially around Easter time and Christmas. It is where all the marchers would finish their march, share up their booty, the things that they received from the houses that they went to, and have a dance on Christmas Day. It was a great place to go. I couldn't wait to get there to go by myself. I used to go there with my mother and my family down to Scranton to the maypole and the greaser pole and the cake sales and the tug of wars and all those things. I used to go down to Scranton. And what came out of that newspaper, the article I saw in the newspaper, it seems to me that there's a lack of knowledge of our history and our culture, and inadequate education from the primary school level by the children, insufficient interest in our people without economic power, because that's what it seems to me. They have no interest in the Scranton people, and that is because Cayman now is embarking on a robust slave labor employment economy that creates insufficient earnings and opportunities for the people like in Scranton. And the urbanization that is creeping up in these communities are permanently altering the stable cultural and environment of the Caymanian local communities. I think the only one that is safe now is the deep in the heart of Rock Hole. But on the outskirts of Rock Hole, the land is now being used for parking lots. Mm-hmm. They're moving the people away, and the people seem to me that they have to sell their property because they're unemployed, mm-hmm. and they do not have any economic power. So they have to live somehow. And
Rock Hole may be threatened still if that proposed road is it called Grescott Lane, somewhere in that area that runs from the junction by the on Godfrey Nixon Way, and it'll run straight through near to where Blue Marlin Restaurant is, and go straight down and come out on North Church Street. If that road goes through there, then that will change the whole face of the Rock Hole area. The only portion that would probably be left would be all the way going towards the north or the northwest, where Borden Road and those areas are. But if that road goes through there, it will, change the nature of that whole area as well.
So, why doesn't our elected politicians, the people who we elected, I'm not talking about the people who have money, the investors who come in, the billionaires, investors who come in. What about our people who we elected? Do they understand this? Do they understand the social anthropology and sociology? Do they understand that you have to preserve those neighborhoods where those people live? And if you destroy them, that you will have crime and unrest and people just move to another site where they displace and become demoralized. Don't they understand this? I mean, Haven't they asked leadership? And when I listen to the things on the radio of the people in Scranton, they see the politicians and the people who go down there seem to listen, but they do not hear what they're saying. They're saying things like, "Oh, we scratch each other's back," and things like that. What they mean is that their neighborhoods means a lot to them, and their friends in that neighborhood means a lot to them. And when you destroy one household in that neighborhood and displace that person is gone from that neighborhood forever. And that person now is displaced in another neighborhood where he is probably not welcome. And the problem is that there's a vicious circle of victimization.
I think they refer to it in some areas as gentrification.
Yes.
We see it happening in New York City.
Yes.
Brooklyn, areas that were predominantly black neighborhoods have now changed, become gentrified. You have the young, affluent Americans, white and black and mixed as well, now moving into these Brooklyn neighborhoods. Just last week, there was a huge demonstration at a restaurant. And why was that demonstration at that restaurant? Because the restaurant, number one, they decided that they were going to sell liquor out of a brown paper bag, and we know what that means.
Yes,
That's you remember the old saying, "Bring your own brown bag."
Yes,
when you go to parties in
yes,
the United States.
Yes, yes.
Black people go to the liquor store and they get their wine or their liquor, whatever, and it's in a brown paper bag. But not only that, they were highlighting the fact they had bullet holes in the walls of the restaurant, hoping to attract people by showing or trying to demonstrate that there was a gunfight in there, that bullets had been shot into that restaurant, and hoping to attract people. And this was a person who was into media and communications who did that. And there was a huge outcry, huge demonstration, a huge backlash, as a result of that, as well. So, those neighborhoods, we cannot gentrify all of them. Some, they have to be able to retain their own identities. And just one more word. On Facebook the other day, I saw someone posted a photograph of Mr. Arthur Martin in his suit.
Oh, yes.
Sitting down.
Yes,
I don't know if you
yes.
saw that.
I haven't seen that.
That was great as well. Ms. Susan, you say we have a caller? Okay, we're going to take a break first, and then we will take that caller. So caller, please hang in there. Quick commercial break, then we'll come back to you. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. My co-host with me this morning, Dr. Steve Macfield. Two callers. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC. Donnie Dixon, how are you?
Morning, Mr. Dixon. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Macfield. Good morning to you,
Good morning,
sir.
sir. Good morning.
I was listening to you about Scranton, and it holds dear to me because when I came to Cayman for the very first time, I was down in that area and experienced a lot of love and family care, so I can only imagine somebody like you who, from there, from birth, knowing of the area and the people, how it feels. So yeah, Scranton holds a special little place in my heart as well, being the first community that I went into when I moved to Cayman.
Yes.
Yeah, but what I'm really calling for this morning is not in relation to Scranton, even though, like I say, it holds a special spot.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel that I need to clarify something that I heard on a television broadcast on Friday evening, and it's a shame that all media houses don't get the fact and get things straight before making a broadcast. And it's in relation to our new IP regime,
Okay.
which, as you might know, comes into effect tomorrow, August 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And the newscast went on to say that it appears that the registry isn't ready, and that was purely from a comment that one of our licensed agents made, and nothing could be further from the truth. We are ready to broadcast, not to broadcast, but to accept registrations. We've been ready for a few months. of course, a lot of the stuff that goes with registration we could not release to the public or to agents until the law comes into effect. And one of those being the forms that are required to be filled out when you're making an application to register a trademark.
Okay.
But just to assure industry and the public in general that the registry is ready, we've been so for several months. And come August 1st, we will take a step into history for being the first time that Cayman will be accepting local registrations for trademarks directly.
Okay.
So that's a major step forward for the country.
While we have you on the line, Mr. Dixon, we were talking last week and on and off the air as well in relation to specifically talking about Dr. Frank McFeel and his productions, his plays that he has written and stuff like that. Can you explain to the public, just briefly and generally, how he could go about ensuring that his creative works are remain his and cannot be used without his permission?
Okay, in the case of Dr. McFeel, he wrote those plays so that would fall under the Copyright Act protection.
Okay.
So copyrights are automatic, meaning that, like in his case, he would have the original writings or sketches or drawings or notes showing that he was the author of that piece of work. And once he has secured that, then like I say, it's automatic. So he holds the rights to that. So anyone wanting to reproduce that play, or wanted to put it on, or wanted to turn it into a movie or a series or whatever, they would certainly have to get his permission, and of course the compensation would be worked out between the two parties. But he would automatically hold the right to those works of art.
And what sort of uptake are you expecting in terms of from the public and from businesses in relation to this new IP?
Well, we geared up for a bang. We know for a fact that some of the licensed agents has already given us some figures as to some trademarks, the number of trademarks that they're holding for August 1st to make applications for direct or local registrations, as we call. And it's really promising. It's looking like it's going to really live up and surpass our expectations as we begin to do it. So we're quite happy with hearing that. The one thing that the public should know, though, although they can call us or email us or stop by, we can give them advice as to how to go about to register the mark. However, we can't accept it from them directly. They have to go to one of the licensed agents to do that.
Okay, and on your end, do you have all of the structures and the necessary personnel in place to handle any huge uptake that you may receive?
We are ready.
Excellent.
We are ready, without a doubt. Like I said, we've been planning. We've been had strategic get together or meetings where we knock our heads together to make sure that in a scenario that we may run into, that we've got contingency plans in place to take care of that. So we are definitely ready, system-wise, personnel-wise, and also the materials that we have to distribute to facilitate the registration.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Dixon, for that. Thanks. Really appreciate it.
All right, and thank you very much for giving me the chance to clear that up with the public. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. We have two more callers. We're going to try to see if we can squeeze both in before 8 o'clock. If not, one will have to wait until after the news or call back. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, ma'am.
And good morning to Dr. Steve.
Good morning, ma'am.
This is Georgette E. Banks.
Yes, ma'am.
I trust that both of you and your family members are well. I'm so thankful that God gave me another day of life. I am, and as I always tell you, Mr. O.C., please don't answer. Either one of you can answer after I hang up. Just give me a minute to see something. I heard one of you say a while ago something about things that are happening down in Rockhole, various properties will soon be gone because maybe the people are in dire need and they have to sell. Well, let me say this. Rockhole, as it has been known ever since I can remember, I always thought it called Rockhole. Wonderful people lived down there, and there were many really outstanding, beautiful Cayman houses down there. Captain Tom Dias, Mr. Josiah Bird, who's one of his sons married my mother's sister, and also Mr. Ed Borden, who used to fix shoes. His mother
You as
had
Mr. Ed
a
Bassey.
very nice house down there. So I want to say this. I quite often say it, and I believe it is really true. Most of the things that are happening to the bunch of us people in Cayman, we are allowing it to happen. Nobody's putting a gun to our head and forcing us to do a lot of things that we should not be doing. We need to love and be proud of our island, every part of it. And may God help us to see that if we do not stand up and take care of our island, no one else is going to do it for us. So may God help us to be brave and courageous and just stop blowing hot air, talk. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Ms. Georgette, for that. We will comment on that when we return. We will also take the other caller, or if they choose to call back after the news immediately, we will take your call when we return. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back after our 8 o'clock news. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Dorit Connor. My co-host in the studio with me this morning, Dr. Steve McField. Miss Theresa Pitcairn is not with us. We don't have any calls at all now, Dr. Steve. So Miss Georgette's remarks, about the Rock Hole area. And just like how Scranton was a rich community, so was the Rock Hole area as well as its surroundings, the Mary Street, what we used to call Maryland those days. Then you had North Church Street or Northward. We used to call it.
You used to call it down north.
Down north,
Yes.
Copper Boilers,
Yes.
and all of those areas as well. Schoolhouse Road, Mr. Lily Smith, and all of them.
The Russells.
The Russells,
the Smiths, the
Miss
Birds,
Anna Connor, and
Miss Anna Connor,
Mr. Her
yes.
husband. Yeah.
The Birds, and then down north, down as far as Whitehall. You have Captain Rail and his brother Rowley, and you have Mr. Wyman and all of those, Mr. Arthur, and then you had you went all the way down to Dixie's. And you had the Dixie people. You had Mr. Norman Borden's them family. You had a woman called Miss Violet who had a store down there, and then you had the Mandersons who lived there. That was before Dog City started.
Yeah,
that was before Dog City, and you had a guy called Foxy, which was I think Norman Borden's uncle. He was a great seaman and
Willard.
great fisher.
Willard is his real name. Willard.
We used to
Yes,
call him Foxy. I don't think I ever saw him with a pair of shoes on. He always was bare feet and had his pants rolled up above his knee and a paddle on his shoulder.
Yep.
And then you had the famous Jack and Jill, and their parents lived down there too. And you had Mr. Audley Borden, Gaillard Borden, and the woman who you
Miss Ardith Smith
and family all lived down in Miss Annie Borden and a Ducky we used to call them. Down at the place they called Borden Road, but it used to be on the Ducky, and all of those people lived down in there, and those were great communities where people shared and and share things. And if you listen to what the people in Scranton was saying, we scratch each other's back. You scratch my back, I scratch my back, and peace sharing. They were complete communities where they had been existent for generations and generations and generations, existing together, coexisting beside each other, without any problem, without any strife, without any crime. And so forth.
Well, give us some of the names in the Scranton area as well. You had Mr. Hewitt.
Well, you had Con Hewitt.
Yeah.
And his wife, Mr. Bruna. And you had
Willie
B. And you had Miss Elena, Miss Elena, and her son, Mr. Everard. I don't know her.
Mr. Everard had the taxi.
And Uncle Dick. And you had Mr. Sam. You had Con Sam Miles and his wife. His wife was named Elena too. And then you had the Ebankses, Mr. Burley and them father, Conlea and them sister. Down in there, you if you remember them, Berkeley and them Berkeley and them father down there. And then you had Uncle Sam Miles. I mean, you remember the story that he got into trouble. Boyd, he got into trouble with Commissioner Gerard.
Oh yes, with the you told us about that story before. I think we have a couple of callers. Let's go to the phone lines. First caller, good morning, welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, O.C. How are you today?
Fine, sir, and yourself?
Yeah, Mr. Markfield, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Yeah, you remember Mr. Alban Whitaker down there to north?
Yes, that's right.
Del Seymour, you had Del Seymour.
Yes.
Down there in Scranton, and you had
and Miss Fanny.
Miss Fanny.
Miss Fanny.
Aunt Fanny.
Yes, Aunt Fanny.
Aunt Fanny.
and Miss what she means, Clark. We used to call her from down our whole group.
Yeah. Clappy.
Yeah, and we also had Mr. Sherry Gorin's father. What was his name now? Sherry Gorin's father. You remember that used to box, Cheryl?
Mm-hmm, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his father all down in there too. And then they had that other man, they remember J.D. Martin's father.
Oh, well, that was in a different section. You see, Scranton was quite different from Martin Square.
Yeah.
Martin Square was where Bobby what's the name?
Bobby Seymour.
Bobby Seymour family lives now. All that was Martin Square. He controlled all of that stuff. That's where Con Hewlett and all them live. Up there in Martin Square. That was a different thing. And then in the middle of that, you had a place called the Old Yard. Was where some of the Ramones live.
Yeah, these are how part is it too?
Yeah.
That's Old Yard there.
Where Muggy and all them used to live down in Harold Miles and his family, his parents lived there. So the community was split in three different sort of family units. There was Scranton, there was the Old Yard, and then there was Martin Square.
Yeah. At one time, we used to call it Parker's Digging too. I used to
call it Parker's Diggings.
An area down there, Parker's Digging.
And the white people from up in South Church Street and stuff used to call it Surrey Bush.
Surrey Bush, yes.
And then some people used to call it Monkatown too.
Yes.
They used to have different names for it too. And used to call, and then lately they call it Central.
Yep.
Used to call it Central. During Hercules days, during Judge Hercules days, it became Central. And it was known by one of the largest trees in the Cayman Islands. It's called the Big Tamarind Tree.
Tamarind Tree. A lot of gambling used to go on that tamarind tree, and
cooking
and stuff like that.
and stuff and things like that. And that's where the Georgetown election would be the outcome would be foretold who's going to get elected under that tamarind tree. And Hercules had it cut down.
Okay. Any more for us, caller?
That's right, Calvin Ramon and them used to be. Remember Calvin?
Yes.
Yeah, well, Calvin's house was right across, from the tamarind tree.
Yes, right. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember
Miss Francis' house.
Yeah.
I remember one time, when we were going to school down there by the annex, Teacher Markfield, when the boys used to go on bad, he had two pair of boxing
gloves. Yes, yeah.
Yep, and he would
duck it out.
He would put you up in the room, and whoever win then had to fight him. And I remember one time, Teacher Markfield put on one pair himself with Calvin Ramon, and we could hear licks going and pow. Them boys was out by the door listening. That was, because we were in school, they said, man, teach him up, he's killing him. And when the door was open, Calvin walked out with the gloves on and took him off and threw him down. When they looked, they said, teach him up, he was lay out down on the ground. Calvin had knocked him out. And boy, let me tell you, they were days. But you remember also all those good coconut tarts and plantain tarts that those old people used to make down in there.
Oh yeah. They
candies, all that goes out of style.
They could do all of that. We're gonna ask you to leave us there, though, caller. We have other callers that we want to speak to as well. Thanks for sharing that with us, caller. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Good, OC. Yeah, Steve, I'm sorry I gave you the wrong information.
Yes.
I mean, I can't believe that after coming there and saying to you it would be so great to have you do a review on the play,
Yes.
that I would give you the complete false information. But when I went in the car afterwards, I had already left your house, I found the program, and the program said that the Sunday performance would be 6 o'clock, whereas the other performances were 8 o'clock.
Yes.
That's where I made my mistake. But I would have really so much loved to have for you to have seen the play and to have done the review. But your take on Scranton and the other communities, because although people were sharing a similar space, they were distinct communities, as you point out very often. And I think that's important to understand that size is not what makes communities. Communities can be very, very tiny physically, but in terms of the differences between the communities, that can be vast. And that's what we had in the Cayman Islands. We had many of the black communities, because people don't want to recognize blackness as having a sociology and perhaps even a spirituality that was distinct, and that people sought ways over the years to be able to preserve and to actually take forward through the generations that particular sociology and spirituality. This is what I, of course, tried to capture in Playground, the play, in terms of the journey on the North Sound, is how people can be so philosophical, but this philosophy is yet, to our ears, it's like very, very simple. And I was making that kind of same connection with Swanky, the Swanky Band, how that is the root music of the Cayman Islands, but it is almost like an orchestra. It's almost like classical music because of what the Rose have been able to do as the leader, the conductor, the drill sergeant of the notes and the sounds. He's been able to create an amazing type of music that we have been wishing for a very long time in the arts. And I feel always very sad when I see people who are in love with their spirit and their past, and that they try to preserve it in a very aesthetic manner. And we don't have people who are cultured enough in our institutions to be able to appreciate and rally around what has been going on for the last 40 years in the arts in the Cayman Islands. I find it really sad when I go to the theater after having sacrificed some of my sanity and my time to be able to produce what I consider to be a spiritual miracle to be preserved, that people do not understand aesthetics and culture and civilization sufficiently to be able to give some type of credence, not just to what I have done, but what others have done and are doing, including the young dancers and actors and musicians that we saw in this particular production. I think it's such an incredible product, and I give credit to Henry Muto for having persevered over a very, very, very long period of time with the lack of grit, the lack of empathy, the lack of understanding for spirit and culture, and the way in which the spirits are carried forward in civilization through messages that this kind of poverty of philosophy which exists in our society, which exists among our elected members, that none of them could find themselves to be seated in the theater. But if they had been in England, they had been in Germany, they had been in any sophisticated, developed, civilized society, they would be ridiculed for their lack of cultural understanding. Yet they support policies like cultural and heritage statements or policies when the statement should be their support for the arts, their actual active participation by attending to give encouragement to the delegations that they're sending abroad to represent their unique cultural, spiritual identity. I find it so saddening. And that is one reason why, Steve, I always say that you are the great writer. You are the great spirit. You are the great philosopher. You reveal, you recollected, and you are much more than just a lawyer. You are that intellectual that we need to give some kind of credence and some kind of cohesiveness to our collective identity. You do a great service to the country when you speak with the passion and with the knowledge. And
It certainly does. Doc?
Thank you.
Thank you very much
you.
for that, Doc.
We're going over.
We have another caller. Ms. Susan, do we go to the break now, or we take the call? Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC.
Good morning. How are you, Devil?
Good morning, Dr. Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Devil.
I just heard Dr. Frank on there. I agree with everything you say, and I hear the premier, his speech in the Cranton. I think with that speech or in the paper say that he could check out on some of them programs, see if he's working, if he's not working, he could put them under someplace else. I'm hoping that he'll get Dr. Frank on some of these committees to study these things. Because he's qualified for that, and I hope they'll be able to use him. The other day I called in and recommended that, and I also recommended Gilbert McLean, but that part didn't catch on. So please use Mr. Gilbert McLean in Health Service Commission there, because he got a lot of life left in him too. Speaking about the Cranton, I've been associated with that all the time. I was a boy when I used to have sports up on part of the ground. So I know these people. And as a young man, then after I got a car, I used to go up in that area, and some I can't call the names now, and I still remember some of them girls would come to the parties we would have it at the old courthouse upstairs. Some of them left me at New York, and some of them are still around, I believe, one or two. But I want to compliment Mr. Dale Ramon for keeping this thing going, and the rest of the Ramones and everybody else. So we got to keep behind them, and we got to do the same thing in West Bay. So I want you all to have a good day, and I'm going back to work.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Ivan. One more caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Oh, we lost that. We lost that caller. Now, there is something unique about a lot of these communities that we talked about. We see 4 and 6 foot chain link fences and 8-inch block walls, stone walls nowadays. Didn't have those fences in our days. The yards were communal.
That's right.
Now, that poses some challenges for some communities today in some of the areas, because it's a communal property, all family. So everyone has built their house on that, their home on those properties, no fences. And when there are certain things that have to be done, like electricity hookup and things of that nature, it poses a challenge because it is just one huge block and parcel number. But that's how we live. I'm told that we have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC. How you doing?
I'm fine, Chris. Morning. How are you, sir?
I'm good, no complaint. I just wanted to support Mr. Evans' the previous call there, where I do believe that Dr. Frank would be suitably placed or well placed if we can get him into some of these communities. I mean, Dr. Frank has ways of getting through to people. They know him. He has been amongst them. He can go inside there and do things that many of the people or the many of the quote-unquote consultants that we bring in can't go and relate with those people in such a way, being a man of the soil himself and everything else. I mean, Michael Miles also did some great work in that side. And the reality of it is we need people that those people can feel comfortable with, that they feel like they can communicate with, they can also relate and understand where they're coming from. And I think Dr. Frank would be perfectly placed there. But to just put a statement out there saying that the programs are failing without a plan in place, I mean, I think we can do better than that. And I think we definitely would support Dr. Frank. And I think many people support Dr. Frank. I mean, going down in the community and doing that kind of work down there.
But it's not enough to say support Dr. Frank. You are an elected member of the Legislative Assembly and a member of the people. You should be bringing.
I'll be pushing. You
should be bringing motions and writing letters to your colleagues and your contemporaries in the legislature and outside the legislature to support those things and to support these neighborhoods. It's not enough to get on the radio and to say, well, so forth and so forth. You need to put your elected position in gear and go out and start letting the electorate see that you're supporting other people outside the Legislative Assembly.
What I'm doing, and this is part of the process too. So I do have other means in which to push to get that done. So absolutely, yes, I totally agree with you, and I really hope. But one of the things that we also want to let the public know is that, listen, it just can't be the job of the elected members alone. We'll push. I'll be pushing as much as I can. But what I also want for them to do is pick up the phone and call their MLAs and advocate and push through. That is how we're going to build a participative democracy. It's not going to be about 19 people, but rather all Caymanians pushing on the same page to get the same things done. You know, what we want is more than 19 voices. We want as much voices as we can get. And this is one of the best mediums in which to push for it also. So I'll say to people, and this is one of the things that we want our people to start doing, pick up the phone and call your MLAs. Demand, push them. I get enough calls, and I can tell you, I have people, just last week alone, I had people calling me saying, you know, Chris, we would really like to see Dr. Frank and even Gilbert and those guys get more stuff done and be more involved in the community. And by all means, Dr. Steve, I really am glad you said that.
Yeah,
you know,
we need to.
Yes, but this is definitely part of it. Sunday morning, I had a long talk with Ezra. We're basically going through some of the motions that we'll be looking to bring. You know what I mean? And I think it definitely will be an improvement in terms of what it is that we have right now. But like I said, that's the start, but the public has got to be involved. They've got to put pressure on their politicians. And one of the things that we'll be doing is that once we have basically filed our motions and everything else, is come back to the public and say, this is what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, and we're going to be begging them and asking them to go out there and call the MLAs and push to support it. That's what we need. We need people power.
Yep. Thank you very much for that, Chris.
Thank you, gentlemen. Always enjoy listening to you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good.
We have one more caller. Do we have time before we go to the break, Ms. Susan? We have enough time. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning. And yourself?
Good, thank you. And good morning to Dr. Steve.
Good morning, ma'am.
I stand in agreement with everything that has been said this morning. And just to add to it, I think you guys need to try and get a copyright on the road, especially the jigsaw puzzle of the West Bay Road. And that's all I have to say. You all have a good day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, talking about using the talents of Dr. Frank McField and others, what we don't want to do is we don't want to wait till it reaches the point where some smart person in government will decide, we need to bring in a social anthropologist to look at all of these things, someone who knows absolutely nothing about us. So we need to do it now while we have people, above ground who knows who know about our society and the history of our society as well. Going to commercial break. For the record, we'll be back shortly. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record. We're not on a specific topic this morning. We started out talking about various things, and we're right now still on talking about neighborhoods in the Cayman Islands, in particular Georgetown. But we welcome your calls and any comments or questions that you may have as well. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Connor. And I didn't even listen to the radio yet. This was on my mind to call in, so I don't know who the other panel is there.
Dr. McFeel is with me this morning. Just him.
Yeah, he's an immigration man. What I called about, it's been on my mind because some time ago, remember, about 2 weeks ago, I called in about objecting and asking government to do something about this being sued and whatnot, So to solve this problem, I think we need to put these people that are applying for permanent residence some kind of a quota or something or other, I think that will solve it, that it wouldn't be back up. Now, another thing, I think the immigration department, because I was stood in line and heard the immigration officer telling somebody that the time was for rollover, and I heard the immigration officer tell the person, listen, why don't you apply for permanent residency? By the time you go through, you get another year and a half, and sort of stuff, So they need to tighten up with this. Because I don't want people suing my government, for damage because they didn't process when they got more. I guess guessing should say that there's hundreds of people applying for permanent residence, and it's a scam, because the time to roll over and they go and apply for permanent residence, and they know they can't get it, and they stay another year or a year and a half, and they know. I don't know if some of these people that sued, the 6 of those sued one of those that applied, and it was eventually, or whatever happened, that they get disgruntled because it wasn't done in time, and then they sue government to get it. And I don't want the courts now to step in to granting immigration residency because that's defeating the purpose of the immigration board.
Do you think, caller, that there should be some sort of pre-screening process where if you do have situations where someone is simply applying for a permanent residence and knowing quite well that they will not be approved but stalling for additional time, to pre-screen those applications and simply either return them or make a quick decision on them based on their ability to move forward, inability to move forward?
I agree that 100% OC, because you should be a straightforward form and you should just go right down the line. You do not approve and stop denied. Gone. Finish it. I remember standing in immigration and applying for a visa in Jamaica, and the person ahead of me went to and I was sitting right next to waiting my turn, and you got to be hard and straightforward, and the person gives some nonsense story what they wanted to go to the States. It wasn't a battle. I see the old immigration officer now, the old woman, actually, a young woman come out, she picked that up and raised the ceiling, and she stamped down, bam, denied, try again next year, and that's why our immigration needs, we need to train them to be, that they're the protectors of our country. Some that go down shoo in because someone give them a little gift and speak nice to them, that's naivete of the Cayman Island people, and then they grant them and tell them all kind of loopholes they can get by. Train the immigration officer to be that they're the protectors of our immigration department and stop selling our country out. That's what I got to say about it. And I just trusted they would tighten this up. I mean, this is absurd when you think about people that sue through the court, because they took 18 months or 19 months when they go. I just guess again, hundreds that's applying for permanent residency. Those people that you mentioned, or Mr. Marfield, Dr. Marfield mentioned a few days ago that. When it was first given, it were people that didn't need to work. They had money to support themselves, the retirees, or had wealth they could support themselves. It wasn't for somebody to come and then their time is up and then they want to apply for permanent residency to stay longer, and then they can turn on sue our government, Yep. Anyhow, that's my thoughts on it.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much for that. And what we need to do there, we need to really give the immigration officials the tools. If it isn't in the law, and if it is that they have to accept an application once the application is complete, and don't have the ability and the authority to look at the application, look at the merits of the application in order to determine whether or not it should move forward. That's another story as well. So we're not sure. Do we have enough time for the other caller, Miss Susan? Very quickly, one more caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning. That'll be my luck. Good morning, Mr. Maxfield.
You can always call back. We just have to. We lost a commercial break, so that's why.
I've been calling all morning. But anyhow, also, I agree with that caller just now, and I agree with what you just said about pre-screen them. I just got about 3 questions to Mr. Maxfield and one for you.
Okay.
What year? You can write them down, and then I'll listen for you to answer them. What year did we start using our own Cayman currency? And the U.S. dollar, who gave the permission to devalue that to 80 cents? Someone asked me if it was anything to do with the British, knowing that we are a crown colony. And what year did we start using the U.S. dollars in the Cayman Islands? Mr. Maxfield, you can write them down and answer when I hang up. And this one is for you, OC. The license plates on our cars today that's coming up brand new. Taxi drivers, we have so much ID on our car stating who we are on the road. And now we have a plate stating that we are officially a taxi driver even more than ever. You know, I think that's pretty dangerous to a certain extent. Because we have all the water sports buses and so forth, and majority of the time they're not on the road at night. You understand? So if I pull up behind a taxi and say, let me follow that person, I could probably go over the intent to rob that individual. You understand? So I just want the government and Mr. Tibbetts to I know he's out of the house right now, he's retired, but they need to consider how to put these plates on taxis and rentals. I think it's dangerous to a certain extent because let me tell you something, OC. We're sitting here in paradise and we think that every day we wake up, everything got to be ice cream and cake. It ain't going to be. People are getting fed up and things going to happen. God forbid me for saying it, but things going to happen. We got to be more careful of how we are presenting this island to the world.
I agree.
Okay, I'll wait for Mr. Maxfield to answer my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. Folks, please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back immediately after this commercial break. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We have no callers at this point in time. We have a few questions from the caller. Let's start with the license plate. We saw in Florida where at one point in time in the state of Florida, especially in the Miami area, rental vehicles were distinguishable from other vehicle license plates. Created lots of problems. Tourists were targeted as a result of that. Car jackings, all sorts of things, robberies, and everything else. We haven't reached that stage in the Cayman Islands, but I can understand the caller's concern. And why is there a need? Is there a pressing need to make a distinction between regular license plate for a regular passenger car and a rental? What is the need for there to be a distinction between the two? Extremely, extremely important. And just to mention, in the space of 3 weeks, I believe, we had 2 tourists shot in the Turks and Caicos Islands. One most recently where a prominent, a lawyer who's a partner in a prominent law firm in Washington, D.C., and is also an adjunct professor at Georgetown University, either Georgetown or George Washington University, was shot, had to be airlifted from the Turks and Caicos Islands during a robbery at his hotel. Those are the things that can severely damage your tourism industry. So we have to be extremely careful. So for those of you who are out there listening and who are connected with vehicle licensing, can you tell us the reason why we're distinguishing between car rentals and ordinary passenger, personally owned vehicles? Or for that matter, why do we have to have different license plate for different vehicles anyway? Is it the color that counts, or is it are the numbers on the on the plates that's what's important, Doc?
Yeah, I agree with that. And and the caller, I think the caller was calling about the Cayman currency. Well, I don't really have that on my on my tongue tip, but I think it was 1972 that the Cayman Islands government gave up using the Jamaica currency, the Jamaica dollar, and started their own currency. The currency board was brought into in
1972. Yes, you're correct.
1972.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, the currency board was brought into being, and the Cayman dollar then became the official currency of the Cayman Islands. Now the
first of August 1972.
1972. Yeah, first of all, and the architect behind that episode was a man who became Sir Wassel Johnson. He was the financial secretary of the Cayman Islands, and it was his financial architectural work that was behind us having their own currency. Now, when he decided to move the Cayman Island dollar away from Jamaica and started the Cayman Island dollar and pegged the Cayman Island dollar to the U.S. dollar, he put the value of the Cayman dollar, the U.S. dollar, as only 80 cents of the Cayman dollar. And that is the reason why it's 80 cents of the Cayman dollar, because he wanted the Cayman dollar to be higher, because we were buying stuff from America. We were not producing anything, because it's very important that when you're buying stuff from another country, but you're not exporting anything to that country, that you'll be losing.
Yeah.
You'll be losing. And that is the reasons why. So when you buy something in America, for instance, and it costs $1, and then you have to bring it back to Cayman, and it costs 20% or 25% for custom duty, you're still only spending $1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why he pegged the U.S. dollar, the Cayman dollar, to only 80 cents of the U.S. dollar, which a lot of tourist people can't understand why in Cayman their dollar is only worth 80 cents.
Yep.
And other countries like Jamaica, their dollar is worth $130 or $140 and so forth.
Now, we saw the Cubans have copied what we did here in the Cayman Islands, as well. Mm-hmm. But some of the history of our currency, Cayman Islands dollar was introduced in 1972, replacing the Jamaican dollar at par.
Yes.
So
at par to the Jamaican dollar.
So you didn't lose anything when you converted from Jamaican to Cayman dollar.
And the
right?
Cayman and I think the Jamaican dollar then was worth 10 shillings.
Yes. And it says that Jamaican currency and Cayman Islands dollar both remain legal tender until the 1st of August 1972. When Jamaican currency ceased to be legal tender. Cayman Islands dollar has been pegged to the United States dollar at one Cayman dollar to 80 cents and stuff. And very quickly, Ms. Susan, before we go to the news break, in 1972, the coins in circulation, at that time, we had a 1 cent, 5 cents, 10 cents, and 25 cents were introduced. The 1 cent was struck in bronze, with the other denominations in copper nickel. From 1992, copper and nickel plated, steel plated, bronze, and respectively. So that's about our coins as well. Going to headline news. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. No callers on hold. We'll talk a little bit more about our currency. Oh, we have one caller. So we will go to the caller in a minute just to say about our banknotes. And this is for all of you persons who are facing the rollover and want to leave before the rollover hits you and want to take all of your pension funds out and stuff like that. We'll tell you about some of those dollars that you want to take out of the country before it matures as well. On the 1st of May 1972, the Cayman Islands Currency Board introduced notes in denominations of $1, $5, $10, and $25. And then we introduced the $40 note in 1981, but that was taken out of circulation a few years later, and we followed by $100 in 1982 and the $50 in 1987. And then on the 1st of January 1997, the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority took over issuance of paper money, issuing notes of $1, $5, $10, $25, $50, and $100. The current series of notes were issued in 2011. So all of you who are sending your money, taking your money out of the Cayman Islands, that's the history of that money that you're sending and taking out of the Cayman Islands as well. Sorry for being so harsh on you this morning. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. When we're talking about the status grant, what really baffles me, one of the issues that I always was concerned about people getting points for doing charity work in all sorts of, shall I say, kind deeds. When we had Mr. Dennis Foster and Mr. Vassell and Desmond and those guys that gave out a few Cayman Islands citizenship or passports. Why? I mean, the biggest criminal in the world, maybe a little bit, not exactly to that extent, but anybody of undesirable character, they can come here for a period of time and be Mr. Nice Guy or Mr. Nice Lady and require points. That should be X. No point. Gentlemen, it should be straightforward with immigration issues, not about what you can do. It should be, tell me something. What is better to observe if someone is left alone, let them do what they want to do, and you observe who they are. Not to say, well, if you do this and you do that, you're going to get your passport or your Cayman status. I find it so disheartening, so unjustified from my point of view that, I can't believe what's going on here. And something needs to be done because we cannot observe the world. They need to have a policy, not about the human rights thing, but you have to say, we can only take in so much. We cannot observe. Look what's happening into the island right now. In a little while, what the old people would say, by the next full moon, we're going to be overcrowded. So I just hope that what I say has some positive merits to it and take it on board for what it's worth, because, I'm really concerned about the type and the amount of people that is coming into this country and just taking over. And Caymanians are pushed one side, not only because of they're saying that we're lazy, but they just don't want us. And we're getting outnumbered by, shall I say, a lot of undesirables. Gentlemen, thank you so much and have a pleasant day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. We talk about Bermuda, and I always like to make the comparison between us and Bermuda. Last week, we spoke briefly about the pathways to citizenship in Bermuda, pathways to status. Their new Home Affairs Minister, Mr. Walton Brown, who's very, very vocal, very vociferous, has a lot of experience. I think at one point in time, he shadowed one of the Home Affairs ministers in Bermuda. And he has pledged a truly inclusive consultation period before introducing immigration reform. This article says that Mr. Brown said the Immigration Reform Working Group is tasked with producing a report based on the principles that Bermudans come first, while the business sector is treated in a friendly manner that encourages growth. So that principle, that philosophy, number one, Bermudans come first. yes, the business sector will be considered, will be treated in a friendly manner. That means that the legislation will be balanced to ensure that businesses are not hurt, and at the same time that they're going to encourage growth. I have heard similar sentiments here in the Cayman Islands. We have heard that, but we have not necessarily seen it put into action because no. Caymanians have not been put first. And that is the first thing that we demand, that you must first address the needs of Caymanians.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And the thing that I don't understand is that we are in need of workers. There's no pardon me?
I say there's no question.
There's no question about that. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. Excuse me. We are in need of some 25,000 of them every year. We have a huge Cayman diaspora around the world. Mm-hmm. We have them in Central America. We have them in the United States, and we have them all over.
Right to our north, Cuba.
Right to our north in Cuba.
Isle of Pines, we can bring hundreds of them from
hundreds of them willing and able and ready to go to work from Honduras, from Nicaragua, willing and ever to go to work. Why don't we utilize them? Why are we going to all some godforsaken countries for so far away that it takes days for them to get here? And then when they come here, they do not have any clue of our culture and do not want to participate in their culture. In fact, what we have here is an enclave of different ethnic groups and living apart and separate and apart from each other. Why is it that we do not take advantage of that? A lot of countries do not have a large diaspora that they can come back and they can bring back home and say, and we already have it in immigration law. It says if you were born outside the Cayman Islands, and if your father or one of your parents or one of your grandparents on the maternal or paternal side, that you can come to Cayman and you can become a Caymanian. So why don't we take advantage of that?
Yep,
I don't understand it, really.
The opportunities are there. We have it right at our fingertips. Let's use it. Let's take advantage of it. 3 callers. Let's go to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing?
Fine, sir. How are you?
Not too bad. Just a quick observation following on from what Dr. Steve Matthew just said, and that is with the implementation of forcing employers to employ from other regions, that policy alone killed a lot of local businesses, because in case in fact is that especially the Jamaicans used to purchase heavily here and send back home. Believe it or not, the products were cheaper here than they could get them back home. Once that died out, once that policy was implemented, and the number of Jamaicans that on permits and work here, guest workers, dwindled, so did the businesses of some of the local merchants, the smaller stores. And certainly even those with the bigger stores felt a significant impact on the loss of that revenue. Add insult to injury, you got a situation where the folks that now come from, far-flung jurisdictions do not spend money here other than what they absolutely have to. In fact, they have developed a very sophisticated, or I wouldn't say sophisticated network, but a basic trade of when one is coming down, they have a network of communication that they bring suitcases full of supplies for their fellow countrymen. But my main reason for calling is that I find that sometimes things are so obvious, they're just as obvious as the nose in your face. You want to fix this immigration problem, in my opinion, and yes, it will require you taking a hard stand and making no apologies for preserving your heritage in your island. And that simply is this: 2 factors in my view. Number one, if you're applying for PR, you need to take the entire amount of money it would require, like the fee that you would have to pay, and put it in escrow. Prove that you have the financial means to actually apply for PR. Okay? I guarantee you that number will dwindle by at least 75%. So, and then that will in itself will weed out anybody who's just doing it to extend another year or year and a half. That'll solve that problem. You don't even need administrative process to deal with that. And secondly, and the most important one to that is, set in a policy. You want to be Caymanian? Renounce your citizenship from your other country. When you do that, then you really find out who wants to be a part of Cayman. Because the truth and the fact simply is this.
But should they renounce it? But should they renounce it before they receive approval of status, or after? Required to renounce it afterwards?
It is a condition. So therefore, they have 24 months therein after they receive it. Obviously, you can't have them.
Okay.
You know, okay? But the thing is that is a term, that is a condition of approval.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you, then you have an issue, because the fact of the simple fact of the matter is, and I don't blame anybody who comes here. In fact, I welcome a lot of people here who come and make a great difference in our country. I benefited significantly from a foreign national who came here and made Cayman their home. They integrated in society. They didn't just, come and hung out in society. They integrated themselves and educated a number of Caymanians at their own big expense. But the point being is, we have the good ones, and the good ones with great intent will always rise to the top. The rest will scatter, and that's what I'm saying. You put those two policies in place, and we save ourselves all kinds of administrative work, and we'll know for sure who's who and what's what.
What about the idea, caller, of restricting Caymanian status to only marriage or by descent?
I don't know that we have to go in totalitarian on that side of it. I certainly wouldn't kick and fuss about the whole thing, but in reality, I think that we still should leave the door slightly open, because we want to also encourage others that may bring that good, because then you got another problem where people are getting paid to get married, and that's a whole nother. And we know that goes on today as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not so sure that it should just remain as that. I think that, like I said, if we put a policy in place where people need to show them that they have the finances, put the money in escrow to show that they have the finances to pay for their PR, and that they're prepared to renounce their citizenship, we solve at least 75% of the problem.
Okay.
That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you very much, caller. Thanks for that. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Oh, we're going to take the break now. We're going to take our final break, and then we can then take the calls afterwards. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Morning and welcome back to For the Record. Going straight to the phone lines as promised. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. O.C.
Morning, sir.
Good morning to Dr. Steve.
Good morning, sir.
So very interesting to get these lessons about our people and about Scranton and Rockpool and Mary Street or Maryland and everything. It's really worth bringing these things up to stamp some sort of definite permanency on our culture, and bringing these things back and letting us know there are different people, and that's very important. I like that little ad there that young lady's telling her father about the car and the oil. I always listen out for that. Hear it, read the Emmanuel talk and stuff. And I just wondered hearing her saying daddy instead of papa. I just wondered about when Papa went out, because all my life I call my father Papa, and if I'm talking to him personally, I'd say sir. And now our children call us dad and Pop and so forth. The issue of the immigration thing, it's difficult to get a horse back in the stable when you left the gate open. And with all the human rights issues and all this, we have to just be firm and have the courage to make a decision that says, just like the other countries do, you're on a work permit for 5 years. Well, that's it. I mean, the whole world can't live in Cayman and become Caymanian. Yep. We have to draw a line somewhere. And that's it. That, like how it used to be. Very few would be granted outside of, as you said, marriage and descendancy. And Dr. Steve made a good point about getting our people of the diaspora all over there, many right there in the Bay Islands, who are all the same name, the same thing, same language, went to see national ball, their children and parents and grandparents who are Caymanians. And there's others over in the other countries too. Go for them first. As other countries do. I just wonder about that incident with the Bermudan paper, where they wrote chastising one of the, I think he's an economist or someone who seemed to have sent an email or put it out on whatever it was, that condemning the government for failure even before the gentleman got a new premier, got his government together and starts his the wheels rolling.
Yes.
And I think that's despicable. And for all newspaper to write condemning them for doing that. What would happen if the shoe was on the other foot? If there was someone here after an election with a bias? There are dozens of capable lawyers and accountants in either Bermuda or here who are capable of making their decisions and other things. So this is not a unique person who is just some genius and making predictions.
Precisely,
and it's wrong.
precisely.
It's wrong to just condemn and say these things and to jump on the bandwagon and condemn the newspaper for writing against what he said and I find that wrong in our newspaper here. Would they do it if it was on the other foot? And here, would we just condemn the new government coming in because you have some bias against them and say that it's going to fail and we're doomed to economic failure and so forth? Rubbish.
Yep.
Plenty of money passing through here and through Bermuda. They'll take care of their debt. Plenty of money. Just
Thank you very much, caller.
Make sure
Ask you to leave us there, caller. Thank you very much. One of our listeners has written and said, "Good morning, Mr. Connor. Please educate us on the benefits of having a PR system. Some advocate a return to a system where a very limited number of people move from work permit to Caymanian status each year without having to apply for PR. Kindly share your thoughts." Well, first of all, the benefits of having a PR system for the Cayman Islands, I am not sure the way that it is set up now, how much it really benefits the Cayman Islands. Those proponents of a larger population here in the Cayman Islands, yes, that may satisfy them, but I really don't see the benefits of it. I see a benefit if we have permanent residence for those persons who have wealth to bring to the Cayman Islands without the need to have to work. So we end up with a more circulation of money in the Cayman Islands. So that would be residence for the rich and for the famous, those who can support themselves. Other than that, I see absolutely no need for it. If you want to have a residency and employment rights certificate for those spouses of Caymanians before they reach the stage that they acquire, they're able to apply for Caymanian status, that is fine. But my position is that we should eliminate permanent residence unless it is for persons who can maintain themselves financially here, have the financial wherewithal as well as the capital wherewithal in the Cayman Islands. Other than that, Caymanian status should be limited to those persons who have some Caymanian connection, parent or grandparent, who is born in the Cayman Islands or through marriage. Now, one of our previous callers talked about the fact that he would not want to necessarily limit Caymanian status to that. But if you're going to increase or allow the permanent residence to continue the way it is, once you have them here permanently, you have to give them more than that. You have to then give them all of the rights that a citizen enjoys. Otherwise, we could possibly be running contrary to our Constitution, as well. Doc?
Yes, I agree with you. And we need to have a national dialogue about that. We need to have a national debate about that, and it should not be given to some organization to write a report. There should be a national dialogue in every community about it, And from that national dialogue, then the government needs to formulate its policy of what it's going to do, where it's going to go forward with this system.
Okay, Doc, I want to give you an opportunity for some closing comments.
Well, I just wrote down a few things here that I would like to say this morning in relation to and continuing how we began. I want to say our elected leaders need to begin implementing concrete solutions of preserving the identity of our people instead of giving hand down for them to get lost in the money machine system. We're indeed marginalized in our own island. We need to demand a more active role and influence in the direction of our future growth. That means participation in the decision-making of our own country. We must demand income-earning options in place of welfare-degrading measures. Places like Scranton need people like Dr. Frank McPhail, who is a sociologist, who understands the community and understands the cultural interests. Our elected members also need to put in adequate education, policing, and local administrative action instead of civic marginalization and political rhetoric. People's lives do matter. Their properties have value to them more than just parking lots to park the Benzes.
Thank you very much for that, Doc. And I just want to also point out that the Premier in his comments at the Scranton meeting talking about a review of all of the programs that government has in place. We need to look at the historical entities that we have in the Cayman Islands. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm biased on this. We need to look at the Scouts.
Yes, right.
Right. We need to look at the Guides, the sister organization of the Scouts. We need to look at the Girls Brigade. All old institutions here in the Cayman Islands. As we speak, a combined membership of about 700 young children in those three organizations. We have just completed our Scouts headquarters, which we will be sharing with the Guides. They have their own space in there, with the Girls Brigade as well. And we are putting a proposal to government. I have already sent something to one of the chief officers, and I will be today sending one to the Premier's office as well. As soon as I get off the phone, I'll be calling his office, and I will be forwarding a proposal to them. And what it simply will be looking for is to assist us with the upkeep of the building, the cost associated with that. Right now, our organization, the Scouts, we receive, they pay the salary of our executive director, Mr. Winston Hale, but he also serves in other capacities within the youth services unit, and we get the amount that all other social organizations get on an annual basis from government. Yes, the government did give us a peppercorn lease for the property through the Nation's Building Fund. We did receive some funds as well, but we need this to continue. We will be housing these three groups. We know, we have seen what scouting, what guiding, and the Girls Brigade can do in terms of producing good citizens.
It produced me.
Yep. In the Cayman Islands, producing good citizens who are productive citizens of our community as well. So those are the organizations that need to be supported. I don't think that there is any need whatsoever to have to review or to consider what those organizations are doing, have done, and are doing now. And like I said, folks, I'm being biased because I'm looking for help for our Scouts at this point in time. But those are the ones that need to be attended to as quickly as possible. I can tell you right now that I believe that the only scout in our recent times that has been in any trouble with the law had to do with something with a traffic offense or something like that. None of them are housed at Northward Prison.
And only
that speaks volumes.
And in my time, of all of the Sea Scouts in the Cayman Islands, all of the troops, West Bay, East End, North Side, Georgetown, Bordentown, of all of the scout troops, there were only 2 people that I know of that went the other way, and it was the Sea Scouts who gave me prominence, and I became a leader quickly. At 14 and 15 years old, I was carrying the Caymanian flag in Jamaica to the Jamaica Boys Sea Scout Jamboree. When we got there, they were remarkable about our uniform. We were all in immaculate white, and they were wondering, what kind of uniform is that? And that's the first time I heard about Sea Scout. We were Sea Scout. We were not just Scouts, but we were Sea Scouts from the Cayman Islands. And everything we did, it was in a metaphor. It was in a metaphor. We marine metaphor. We talk about. They would ask us where Teacher McFeel, and we would say he's up on the bridge, or he's done off, or he's in the forecastle, and it made some great men. Of that group of scouts, now there's only 3 of us alive. There's myself. Mr. Jefferson, who was the financial secretary's father, and Ken and Mr. Miller from Trenwick Miller from Northside, Dr. Miller McCoy, Teacher McFeel, Harwell Bird, Warren Bernard, and people like Mr. Warner Jackson. All them are gone.
Yep. Thank you very much for that, folks. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension for the record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Mr. Gilbert McLean at 12 noon. He will be again filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And to all of you, have a great day. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these 3 beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.